Rome, the eternal city, the beating heart of an empire that ruled the known world. But what made it possible for Rome to stay strong and powerful for so long? In just one night, a Roman emperor made a decision that would forever change the defense of this majestic city, and the walls that still stand today as a testament to its greatness. Have you ever wondered how Rome defended itself against invasions, or why its walls are so unique? Today, we'll dive into the history of Rome's imposing walls, a symbol of power and resilience. From the early fortifications of the Servian Wall to the massive Aurelian Wall, every stone tells a story of bravery, engineering, and imperial vision. But it's not all just about defense. These walls also reveal how Rome, in its time of splendor, transformed urbanism and architecture, creating a city that became the model for all ancient civilizations. But how did the Romans conquer the city, without having to fight on every corner? Stay with us because the best is yet to come. Today, you will discover fascinating secrets about Roman architecture that will surprise you. Let's explore together how Rome became the jewel of the Mediterranean. The history of Rome's defense begins with the Servian Wall, one of the first great fortifications built to protect the city. Built in the 6th century BC, this wall marked the first step toward the security of Rome at a time when the city was still small and vulnerable. Before its construction, Rome was protected by a simple wooden and clay palisade, easy to destroy. But the Servian Wall changed all of that, offering a solid defense made of large blocks of tuff, a yellowish volcanic stone extracted from the hills near the Tiber. The wall extended around the city, with a thickness of 3.7 meters and a height of 7 meters. It was not only a protective wall but also a symbol of Rome's growing power. Today, we can still see remnants of this wall as we exit the Termini bus station. The tough blocks that formed the wall have withstood centuries of history, and they tell us of a time when Rome was just beginning to build its empire. The Servian Wall was undoubtedly the first major defensive work that marked the beginning of Rome as a walled and protected city, but it was not the last. Rome, as we will see later, needed something much larger and more resistant to face the growth and future threats. As Rome grew, so did its need for protection. In the 3rd century AD, the city had reached colossal dimensions and was facing new threats, especially from barbarian invasions. It was then that Emperor Aurelian decided to take a bold step in the defense of the city. The Aurelian Wall, built between 271 and 275 AD, was one of the greatest architectural works of imperial Rome. This new wall, much larger than the Servian one, surrounded an area of 14 square kilometers, extending over 19 kilometers and enclosing the entire city. But what really set the Aurelian Wall apart was its advanced construction. Using bricks and Roman concrete, the wall was much stronger and more resistant than its predecessors. Additionally, it was reinforced with 383 towers and 18 gates, each designed to defend Rome from unforeseen attacks. The Romans knew that the power of the city depended not only on its army but also on its ability to protect itself from those who wanted to destroy it. The Aurelian Wall was the barrier that allowed Rome to remain a symbol of power for centuries. Today, the traces of this impressive fortification remain standing, reminding us of the legacy of an empire that understood the importance of defending its heart to continue conquering the world. Over time, Rome transformed from a small settlement on the hills of Latium to the capital of an empire that spanned the entire Mediterranean. How did they do it? How did a city, once modest and surrounded by swamps, become the center of the known world? Over the centuries, the Romans mastered the art of engineering and urban planning. From the 1st century BC, Rome began expanding its borders, not only in size but also in complexity. During the imperial era, the city housed over 1 million inhabitants, becoming the largest metropolis in the ancient world. This monumental growth demanded architectural and urban innovations that transformed the face of the city. The ancient hills of Latium, once difficult to access, were intervened and leveled to build a city that was not only imposing but also functional. The use of Roman concrete was key in the construction of the Colosseum. This innovative material allowed the Romans to create a solid, durable structure capable of supporting the massive weight of the building, while maintaining a spacious and airy design. One of the most fascinating features of the Colosseum is how its space was distributed, not only in terms of architectural design but also according to the social classes of the Romans. This gigantic amphitheater was designed to hold about 50,000 people, and each spectator had an assigned seat, not only for comfort but also for social status. The front rows, closest to the arena, were reserved for the Roman elite, senators, aristocrats, and people of great influence in society. These seats were the most comfortable and were luxuriously decorated, reflecting the power and prestige of those sitting there. A little higher, in the middle seats, were the knights and the middle class, while the higher tiers, the furthest from the arena, were reserved for plebeians, slaves, and women, who, according to the social norms of the time, could not actively participate in the events. What is curious is that the Colosseum was designed to maintain a clear separation between these social classes, which not only allowed for better organization of the space but also a visual distinction between the groups. This was reflected in the marble and iron stairs that separated the different sections, ensuring that each social class remained in its place. Although historians are not completely sure how this separation was fully implemented, the structure of the arena and the bleachers did show a clear differentiation. The Colosseum was not only a place of entertainment but also a reflection of the Roman social hierarchy, where each spectator occupied their seat according to their status, making the event both a collective and deeply segmented experience. Beneath the Colosseum lies a part of the structure that is not so visible to tourists but plays a crucial role in the functioning of the amphitheater, the hypogeum. The term hypogeum comes from the Greek word meaning underground, and it describes a network of tunnels, passageways, and cages that extended beneath the arena of the Colosseum in an intricate maze designed to house gladiators, wild animals, and all the logistical mechanisms necessary for the spectacles. This underground space, which was not accessible to the public, was one of the greatest innovations of Roman engineering. Here, war prisoners and exotic animals were kept in isolation before being released into the arena. Gladiators also waited in the hypogeum, prepared to emerge and fight at the right moment. But it wasn't just about cages and dark rooms. The hypogeum was filled with mechanisms like ramps and winches operated by slaves to raise animals and stage decorations. One of the greatest wonders of the hypogeum is how the Romans integrated technology to amaze the audience. With the help of mechanisms like rotating winches and pulleys, the Romans could make lions, bears, or tigers suddenly appear directly from below the arena, creating an atmosphere of suspense and excitement among the spectators. These mechanisms were also used to raise stage settings that represented historical or mythological battles, adding an additional layer of complexity to the spectacle. The details of the hypogeum remained largely unknown for centuries, but thanks to the work of archaeologists like Hans-Jürgen Best, we now know how marks and grooves in the walls were used to guide workers in transporting animals and scenes through the narrow passageways. The precision with which this underground space was designed reflects the level of organization and sophistication the Romans employed to maintain complete control over the events in the arena. The construction of the Colosseum was a monumental undertaking, both in scale and logistics. Historical estimates suggest that between 20,000 and 30,000 workers participated in the construction of the amphitheater, and a large portion of them were slaves. To build such a structure, the Romans used not only their ingenuity and skill but also an incredibly efficient organization that allowed them to overcome the challenges of building a building of such dimensions in such a short time. The Colosseum was built on marshy ground, which presented a considerable challenge. To ensure the structure was stable, Roman engineers designed concrete foundations that reached up to 12 meters deep. This foundation work, done with precision, allowed the Colosseum to rise on ground that would otherwise have been unstable. One of the most impressive aspects of the construction was the transportation of materials. The travertine stones, a type of limestone used in much of the structure, were extracted from quarries near Rome, about 30 kilometers away. To move these stones, a network of special roads was built, and ox-drawn carts were used. In total, around 240,000 carts filled with stones were transported, a massive logistical effort. But Rome was not only characterized by its luxury and grandeur. Throughout its history, Roman architecture was a combination of functionality and style. The Romans didn't just build to impress, but also to make their cities more livable and efficient. Water aqueducts, for example, were not only a marvel of engineering but a vital necessity for a city with such a massive population. These water channels allowed Rome to have a constant supply of fresh water for its baths, fountains, and homes. Similarly, the creation of a sewage system was a monumental step toward improving living conditions in Rome. The Cloaca Maxima, one of the oldest drainage systems in the world, helped prevent floods and the spread of diseases, ensuring that Rome remained a cleaner and healthier city. In addition to being functional, Roman architecture always sought aesthetic perfection. The use of concrete, arches and vaults, and the creation of grand monuments such as the Colosseum and the Pantheon were the result of technical and artistic skill that defined Roman culture. Roman architecture not only improved the quality of life for its citizens but also became a symbol of the grandeur of an empire that, although it eventually fell, left an indelible mark on the history of the world. However, the greatness of Rome did not last forever. As the empire began to decline, the walls that once defended the city became witnesses to its fall. Although the barbarian invasions eventually brought down the Western Roman Empire, the walls of Rome never lost their significance. The Aurelian Walls, which at the time represented the ultimate defense against external threats, ended up being a symbol of the imperial past. Despite attacks and the passage of time, their stones remained standing, reminding the world of the incredible ability of the Romans to build fortifications of such magnitude. Today, walking along the ancient walls of Rome, it's impossible not to think about the centuries of history these walls witnessed. They were not just a defense against invaders, but also marked the expansion of a civilization that changed the course of history. Although Rome fell, its walls, monuments, and architecture remain alive in the collective memory of humanity. They are the legacy of an empire that, despite its end, continues to influence modern world culture, engineering, and politics. The greatness of Rome not only left traces in its monuments, but also in the way we conceive our cities today. From urban planning to civil engineering, Rome established principles that remain alive in modern urbanism. The Romans were pioneers in creating organized cities, with a system of straight streets and a distribution of public spaces that inspired the design of many modern cities. Rome's road network not only connected the city to the rest of the empire but also laid the foundations for future transportation infrastructures. Roman cities were exemplary in their use of space. The forums, squares, and markets not only served for commercial activity but also as meeting points for social and political life. This concept of public space remains fundamental in the planning of contemporary cities. Cities like Washington, D.C., Paris, and Barcelona adopted urban design principles rooted in Rome. From the main avenues to the organization of neighborhoods, Rome left an indelible mark on how cities should function to be functional, beautiful, and livable. One of the keys to Roman architectural success lies in their ability to innovate with materials and construction techniques. The Romans didn't just build grand monuments but created a technological foundation that transformed architecture in the ancient world. Roman concrete, a unique mixture of lime, sand, water, and volcanic stones, allowed the Romans to construct larger, more durable, and resilient structures. This invention revolutionized architecture as it enabled the construction of massive vaults, arches, and structures without the need for large supports. Roman vaults and arches were not only a marvel of engineering but an efficient way to distribute weight in buildings. The Colosseum, the Pantheon, and the Segovia Aqueduct are perfect examples of how the Romans used these methods to create monumental buildings that withstood the test of time. The Romans also perfected the use of bricks, and their skill in molding and joining them with mortar allowed the creation of some of the most complex structures of antiquity. Roman construction techniques continue to be studied and admired for their sophistication and precision. Rome, the city that rose between hills and swamps, left an indelible mark on history. Through its architecture, the Romans didn't just build a city, they created a legacy that has lasted for millennia. The walls of Rome, its monuments, and its innovations remain a testament to its greatness. They were much more than defensive or luxurious structures, they were symbols of power, ambition, and the vision of an empire that understood the importance of architecture as a reflection of its power and culture. What would have happened if Rome hadn't had these innovations? How would the ancient world have looked without the influence of its architecture and urban planning? Rome remains an example of how engineering, beauty, and functionality can unite forces to transform a city and a civilization. Let us know your opinion in the comments. What aspect of Roman architecture surprises you the most? If this video surprised you, subscribe for more fascinating content about ancient Rome, and share this video so more people can discover these secrets of history.